I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people. It is the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. We've got a fantastic show for you here today. Today we have joining with us Mr. Scott Wilson from the Gardener Scott channel for Ask Gardener Scott Day here on the Let's Get Growing show. Yeah, that's right. It's the second Sunday of the month. So we should have Gardener Scott here with us a little bit later on in the show here today. Really great. Always a fantastic, awesome conversation with Gardener Scott when we have him here on the show. Plus, a really awesome opportunity for all of you out there to get all of your gardening questions answered as well too. So hopefully you guys have been preparing and thinking about things that you want to find out and learn from Gardener Scott, something going on in your garden, something you're just wondering what you should do about or how you should take care of something. Maybe you're growing something you haven't grown before, you want to know what to expect, all these sort of things that could be going on in your garden. I know Gardener Scott can answer them for you. So definitely be prepared with some questions coming up just a little bit later on in the show when we get Gardener Scott on with us here today. And speaking of today is Mother's Day. That's right. Happy Mother's Day to all of the moms out there today. And if you're a mom joining with us here today, happy Mother's Day to you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on your special day, hanging out with us right here on the Let's Get Growing show. So thank you so much for doing that today and being our moms and taking care of us so well. So appreciate all of you out there. Thank you so much. All right. Excellent. Like I said, we got a great show coming up for you here today. We also got In the Garden coming up here in just a few minutes as well too, with our good friend Mr. MBC. We'll be chatting with him. But here, right at the top of the show, let's go ahead and do this too as well. Let's go ahead and click that like button. Let's go ahead and hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit that bell notification too, so you be notified of all of our upcoming shows here that we've got coming up here throughout the season. And definitely share with all your garden friends out there. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show. Let them know about all the great, awesome conversations we have around gardening here every weekend on the show. That's right, every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. 2 p.m. Eastern for all of you over on the East Coast as well. So thank you all so much for being here from all over the country, all over the world. In fact, as we saw yesterday, we had, I think, a lot of our guests or audience were from the UK that we saw in our chat yesterday too. So again, all over the world, friends from Australia, friends from all over the country. Joining us here. So thank you so much, everyone, for doing that. Also, if you are here with us too, live right now as well, I also want to remind you we are still doing our roll call at the beginning of the show. I'm going to do that here in just a few minutes. So this is for all of you who are joining with us here live on the show right now. Definitely get into the chat. Let us know where you're growing from and what you got growing on and all of that. Just let us know you're here. We'll give you a big shout out here in just a minute on our roll call. And shout out to our replay watchers, Team Replay. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us on your time and joining with us each and every week. And really love hearing from all of you. So definitely get down into our comments. Let us know that you're here, just like everyone is going to be doing right now for us and who are here live, jumping in for our roll call. Let us know as well, all of you replay watchers, what are you growing? Where are you growing from? Let us know all about that, or just drop in and say hi, especially if you're new to the show. I want to hear from new viewers. If you're just coming across our show, or if you just found our show recently, I want to hear from you as well too. So definitely get into the comments and let us know what you think of the show, and let us know how you found the show, all of that sort of stuff. So I love hearing from all of you. So thank you so much. And yeah, definitely get your questions in too for Gardner Scott coming up here later on in the show, and see what we can find out from Gardner Scott. I love all the different questions. It's very interesting to see kind of where the conversation goes based on what you guys are asking and what you guys are bringing when it comes to the questions that you have about what's growing on in your garden. So definitely be bringing those questions coming up here just a little bit later on in the show. And yes, not much really going on too much. Like I was saying yesterday on the show, we just pretty much were hanging out and doing we did a whole bunch of stuff, but I did talk about this picture that was on our thumbnail on yesterday's show. And I'll just tell you that this is a giant radish that I grew. You want to hear about the story about that, definitely go back and check out yesterday's show. We played a couple of different segments that I didn't get to play recently and in the garden with our friend Paul from Guten Gardening. And also we did Shawnee from Grow What You Eat segment that we do on the Green Room show, which I also talked about yesterday. If you want to learn a little bit more about what's going on with the Green Room, as I'll just say, it's we're not going to be doing it for a little while, I'll tell you that much, but you can find out more about that also on yesterday's show too. So if you got any questions or want to know about any of those sort of stuff as well, check out yesterday's show. It was really fun. We did a kind of a cool little just kind of a bunch of different things, played those segments. We talked about we talked about that picture. We talked about what's going on with the Green Room. We also did a little bit of a semi community show at the end of the show yesterday as well too. We invited some folks on from the audience to come hang out with us, and we kind of talked a little bit more about that picture that I showed you guys there from the thumbnail, and some other things growing on in their gardens and all of that as well too. It was really fun, kind of variety show for a variety talk show. We really brought the variety yesterday on the show, so it was really fun. It was really interesting how it all came together. I was worried at first before I got started with it, but by the time the show was finishing up, I was like really happy with how everything went. So it was a really great show. So go check that out yesterday. And also too, I mentioned last week we had kind of an interesting, fun kind of conversation on our Saturday show. Just another type of hangout and whatever, but also you can find out on yesterday's show a little bit about what happened when we ended last Saturday's show, because I'll tell you what, it ended about a half an hour early, and it was a real kind of surprise what happened. So you want to find out about that as well too, check out yesterday's show. Lots of teases there for you to go and check out yesterday's show if you didn't get a chance to do that. So definitely do that. I do want to mention as well too, again, about last Sunday edition show. What a great show that turned out to be as well too. Big, huge thank yous go out to David from Bowtie Life and Mrs. Bowtie, especially. They're put a lot of work into. They drove from Florida out to Missouri to go check out the Baker Creek Spring Planting Festival out there in Mansfield, Missouri. And so they were live on location there at the Baker Creek farm, and set us up with some really, really great guests and we had some really great conversations with folks there live from the Baker Creek Spring Planting Festival. It was a really great job. They put a lot of work into doing those live streams, not only for our channel, but their channels as well too. Did a bunch of live streaming and all of that sort of stuff too. So if you want to go check out more of what they did at the Spring Planting Festival, go check out Bowtie Life's channel. We do have links down below in the description there if you want to go check that out. Great time last week. I'll say we had a great conversation right off the bat. You know, we had P. Allen Smith join us for a few minutes at the top of the show. It was really great. He was one of the main speakers there at the event, and so it was really great to have that conversation and the others as well too. It was just a really great show. So go back and check that out too if you didn't get a chance to check that out this last week on the show. So yeah, again, you know, just really great, great to have David and Mrs. Bowtie, you know, put in all that work to help us have such a great show last week. So although, you know, like I said, we kind of like doing a little bit of this and that over the next few weeks and all that. So, or the last few weeks, hopefully we're going to be getting things rolling back together just right, especially with today's show, you know, having Gardner Scott on with us here in just a little bit as well. So get things rolling right back the way they should be going. I'll talk about what we're going to be doing next week on the show. We got some great shows planned for next week. I'll talk a little bit more about that here at the end of the show too, so you want to stick around and hear about what we got coming up for next week on the Let's Get Growing show as well too. But right now I think it's about time for us to jump into our in the garden, or no wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. We do have something we got to do real quick here first. I was telling you all real quick, it's time for roll call.
My name is Kevin. Yeah. That is my name. Yeah. They call me Kevin. Yeah. Because that's my name. Roll call.
All right. Real quick here, run through our conversation today. Thank you everybody for being here with us today. It's roll call time. This is where you jump in, say hello, let us know where you're growing from, what you've got growing on here. This is our audience shout out section of the show. And of course, we've got to say hello to our J-Bot. Jay, join us from Huron County, Midwestern Ontario in Canada, the lee of Lake Huron, our facilitator and producer and all of that. Just keep an eye out there in the chat for links and all of that, especially as we're talking with Gardner Scott and all of that. And also as well too, I like to get shout outs to small channels and all of that. If you're new and joining here and you have a channel, definitely let us know in the chat as well too. We'll get links out to your channel so we can help show some support as well. So keep an eye out there. Jay does an awesome job facilitating our conversation here today. We've got Bowtie Life I was just mentioning. Thanks, Bowtie, for everything you did last Sunday. Thank you, Mrs. Bowtie, as well. What an awesome day there. And now they're back home joining us here from the Emerald Coast of Florida, where the Baker Creek ginger is planted. Cuttings are rooting strong, and another busy garden season is underway there at the Bowtie Gardens. Yes, awesome to have you here with us. Thank you so much, Michael, here with us. Hey there, how are you doing? It's great to have you here with us today. We've got Dusty Flats in the conversation here as well. Thanks, Dusty. Always great to see you. Takes time to cover and uncover, and time is short. So hoping the greenhouse will be done today. These flats have got to go out. Got to get them out. You got to get some room there for sure. And big, huge hello to our friend, good friend, Tony from Simplify. I can't even talk right now. Oh my gosh. Tony from Simplify Gardening. Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you here with us today. Michael, I'm watching while I make potato salad. Yum. Oh, there's nothing like a good potato salad, that's for sure. And joining us as well, too, from the UK, along with Tony from Simplify Gardening. I can say it now. I think I got it down. Joe from Muddy Puddles Farm. How you doing, Joe? Thank you for being here. Joe says, good evening. Another beautiful day over here in sunny Cornwall, UK. The weeds are enjoying the weather, too. I bet. I'm doing a lot of weeding as well. It's hard to kind of keep up with them at this time of year for sure. And Dusty says, hey, y'all, from frozen tundra of Wisconsin. It's been trying this spring. Late week, maybe it will straighten out later this week. Yeah. Hopefully things get going. I know it's just, again, up and down weather for a lot of folks right now, too. So I hope everybody gets a chance to really get their gardens growing good. We got Janet McDonald here. Hello. Join us from Central Texas on the eastern edge of Hill Country, Zone 9A. It's 90 degrees Fahrenheit this week. Wow. Yeah, nice and warm there. Our good friend Will, Big Will Dog in the soil. Hello. Great to have you here with us today. We've got Rebecca's Gardening. Yes. Hello. Great to have you here with us today. Again, thank you so much for joining with us. It's great to have you here. We've got EE2201. Good afternoon, everyone from Ohio. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you here. And Rebecca's Gardening says, Cypress, Texas, Zone 9A. Excellent. We got Habitual Hobbies as well here from South Missouri. Lots of broccoli, peas, lettuce to harvest this week, and lots of tomatoes, peppers, and flowers to put out in the garden. Outside season is well underway now. Awesome. That is so great. And Dusty also says brassicas are growing great under the low tunnel with a lot of assistance. We'll be amazed if they make it. Tornadoes, hail, and freezing temps. Oh my, you're going through. They better produce. That's for sure. Right on, everybody. Thanks again for joining with us here today for our roll call. It's great to have you all here for us. Again, I hope you're all preparing some great questions for Gardener Scott coming up here just a little bit on the show. But first, it's time for a little check-in with our good friend, Mr. MBC. We'll go see what he's got going on in the garden.
Hey guys, it's Mark Boucher Colbert, MBC, out here in the garden at Franciscan Montessori Art School. You're in the garden with MBC. Welcome to another episode. It's a beautiful spring day here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm out in our large field. Most of this was an old soccer field. We haven't converted all of it to agriculture, but we've got some strips along this way that were along the fence line that we've been growing things in over the past few years. And we've even got some big giant log edging that we rolled in last year. Somebody gave us a lot of logs. Anyway, we've got about a 15-foot wide strip here. And I'm gonna be growing corn here this year. I've grown some garlic here in the past. It has never had corn, so it's time for corn in the rotation. And I'm gonna be using what I call the banding method of growing this corn. Now you can see behind me, really what we have is just kind of a mown grass. I didn't really get this area cover cropped up like I wanted to. And so even though it has had a little bit of cultivation, it's not really tillable at this stage, nor am I gonna till it. I'm going to try to apply a mainly no-till method to this bed and to this planting. And I'm running about 100 feet long and about effective 10 feet wide. So I'm going to be running 4 rows of corn spaced approximately 2 feet apart, paths 2 feet apart, 4 rows of corn. Corn's good to plant in blocks. So I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do 1 variety or 2 varieties here, but if I do I'm going to divide it halfway by the block. So all 4 rows will be planted to one variety. Then maybe 50 feet up, I'll switch to the next. So the cross-pollination can happen within the block. If you grow too straight in terms of single rows, the pollen's going to be just blown and you won't get really good ear formation. So you want a block of corn, grows a lot better than a single row. Anyway, I'm going to use this banding method of applying both my fertilizer and water, and then I'm going to mulch in between. So I've got some tools that I'm going to be using to do this banding. I'm going to cut a line, or 2 lines in the sod actually, about 4 inches apart, 5 inches apart. First of all, I guess I should show the line. I've got some, if you can see it here. See that purple twine? Can we see it? There we go. Let's contrast against my shirt. This is Mason's string or twine. It's very flexible, very elasticy. It's not, I mean, I guess it's nylon-y, let's just say that. It's got stretch. It can be pulled quite taut, so it makes a nice straight line. I'll just hammer in a stake here for my first line. That'll be the reference. And then I got my line running 100 feet to the end. And then I can use a tool like this, which is a sod cutter. If you've ever seen one of these, it's a half moon blade. The action looks something like this. I won't show you the blade right now, but you're basically it's got a little lip that you step on. You rock it forward and back to get it fully in. Then you go sideways to open up the soil, and it makes a nice straight cut. Then you're gonna proceed forward, back and forth here. Let me tilt this down. We can tilt here. We have the capability to do that. All right, so look, I'm gonna jam it in, back and forth a little bit, then side to side. So I'm gonna be just making lines like that along my reference line. Then I'm gonna come back and make a second one about 5 inches away from the other one. I may be working on either side of my reference line, 2.5 inches on either side of my reference line. So that's going to allow me to have a strip that's about 5 to 6 inches wide. Then I'm going to come along with something like this, or you know, if I don't have a sod cutter, a real stiff small shovel that works like this. This is almost a flat blade spade here. I really like this one from Corona. I really like this. It's an all steel shank welded directly onto the blade, so it has a lot of leverage power. This thing seems indestructible, and it really transfers, once you plunge it into the soil, it really transfers the lever power. Traditional wooden handle flexes a little bit. This doesn't really flex, so it's going to transfer all the leverage onto the blade, which is great. So either using a sod cutter or some kind of a straight back spade or something with just a slight curve, it's gonna make it easier to make straight lines. If you use a typical shovel, you're gonna get a really scalloped line, which, you know, make it a little harder, make it a little less efficient. This is a grub hoe or a grape hoe or a field hoe. I really like these things. These are actually made from old farming discs. A.M. Leonard, I think I got this from. This is a tool for a lifetime. It's very sturdy, it has a huge solid weld where blade and sort of ferrule meet. I guess that's called the ferrule. Then there's a big old pin. You know, the wooden handle is going to be the first thing to break on this, obviously, and if I take care of it, which we do, we sand it up, we oil it up every year. Should last a good long time. Want to make sure, like any hoe, your blade is sharp. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to just literally like cut out the sod. See if we can get back onto my little demonstration area here. All right, I'm going to just literally take out the sod, and then I really want to make my channel about as wide as the hoe. So then I've got a nice, now if you're good and you can go under the line, you can sometimes get away with, especially if your hoe is sharp, you can get away with not having to cut those reference lines, but it does help. The reference lines help things pop out really fast. But if you're good, you can go straight under your mason's twine there. Let me see if I can demonstrate over here. So I might just take this hoe right off the top, and well, I already had this pre-cut, so it's kind of making it look easy. But you can be hauling off the sod. I guess you can't see me doing it, so let me show you here. You could just attempt it right under the line like this. You're gonna get a messy edge, but maybe that's okay. So you decide, depends on your level of precision, depends on kind of how thick and resistant your sod is. You may find a pre-cut easier, or you can just go at it with this if you have a nice sharp tool. Then we're gonna lay down fertilizer right into that soil. So I'm planting corn here. I have a basic fertilizer that's mixed from one of our local organic supplement houses called Concentrates. And it's got the numbers 553 NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. The numbers are close together. That means it's a fairly balanced fertilizer. And I really want to emphasize the green growth at first in corn, and then the seed development, the flower and seed development. So the nitrogen will help, boost, give me big green shoots. And then the phosphorus, the P in that NPK, will aid the seed and kernel development. So I'm going to follow the recommendations for that. Often a cup per 10 feet is a good round number. I've also used fish bone meal, which has numbers 417 0. So really emphasizing phosphorus. If my soil already had a pretty good background nitrogen, like if I had cover cropped heavily, and I was pretty confident that I had gotten a lot of nitrogen in the soil with fava beans, with field peas, with something nitrogen fixing vetch, whatever it might be, then I might lean heavier on the phosphorus and let the cover crop do the work of the nitrogen. So you have to decide there, how's your soil, how's it looking, what treatment did it have? But I'm going to, and here's where the banding method really comes in helpful, especially for something like corn. When you're using phosphorus as a main nutrient, phosphorus is very immobile in the soil, meaning it doesn't really readily dissolve in water and move around, if at all. And so the plants have to go and get it. So it's best to put it right under the seedlings so the root system can just kind of grow right into it, versus the other alternative is to broadcast or scatter your fertilizer all over the surface of the soil, then maybe till it in, or even just let it sit there and work its way in. And that's going to make it harder. Nitrogen in the form of nitrate will dissolve in water, and then that can move a little bit in the soil and move toward plants. But phosphorus isn't going to go anywhere. Basically, it's going to stay where you put it. So it helps to put it right at the base. So I'm going to work my fertilizer in. Let's see if we can just do a quick little demo of that. So I take my fertilizer, I'd work it along the trench, deposit it in the trench. Then I'm going to use something like this. It's a nice 4-prong cultivator. Just going to go through and stir it in. Right, get it into the soil, work it into the soil. Okay, so that's pretty much the only tillage that I'm going to do because I want to, the more I learn about no-till and the microbial and the fungal community in the soil, the more I want to try to protect that. It's already in place. And if I bring a tiller in, I'm just going to be disturbing that and kind of causing a setback to the soil community. And they're the ones that really do the work, right? They're the workers. So they're going to be digesting that fertilizer, making it available to the plants. Now I'm going to come through and water that deeply. I could do that either with a hose or just set up some drip irrigation. Eventually I'm going to have drip lines running there, but if you're like me, you don't get to that stuff till a little later in the season. So I might just bring a hose out, really deeply water those trenches, but in this whole, 10 to 15 by 100 foot area, I'm just gonna have to water 4 100-foot strips, 4 narrow little 100-foot strips. So that really conserves on water, especially at the beginning. And then into that moist soil is where I'm going to plant my corn. I'll plant my lines of corn. And then eventually I will get some drip lines set up there too, so that the water is going right to the base. Now, what will I do with the middle? Well, I don't want all this grass to regrow. At some point, some of it will definitely start to regrow because of moisture still in the soil and moisture a little bit that I add that moves laterally. So I'm going to put a deep mulch on there of wood chips. I happen to have a good supply of wood chips dropped off on site. So I'm going to put a deep mulch. By deep, I mean, 6 inches. I may at this point choose to also scatter fertilizer on the surface of the soil as a kind of secondary side dress, meaning that I'm going to allow that stuff to slowly sink in and get worked in by soil organisms. And eventually, as it gets worked into the soil, the roots will be able to find it. Some of it, of course, will dissolve in water and make their way to the roots that way. But underneath that mulch, I will scatter on the surface, fully intending that that's not my primary fertilizer for the crop at hand. The stuff that's banded underneath is what I'm targeting for the crop, but knowing that in a couple of months' time, that will give an additional boost. And that's going to be my corn system. I'm looking forward to it. Every year we grow lots of popcorn here at school that we sell and that we enjoy for our own use. We grow flour corn that we grind up and make pancakes and other things out of. And then sometimes we even grow a little sweet corn just to have when school is back in session in September, which is really fun. So corn is an amazing crop. It's has an amazing diversity of shapes and forms. And it's just wonderful to have it as part of our garden rotation. It's a heavy feeder, so we got to take care of it. We're going to be giving it a good amount of fertilizer and a good amount of water, but we're going to try to target that in bands, putting it in strips and concentrating the fertilizer where especially that phosphorus can be easily reached by the plant's roots. And then putting down our watering in strips in terms of drip tape and such, so that the water very efficiently is delivered to that, and we can take a fairly large area and be very conservative and targeted in terms of our fertilizer use. I'm looking forward to a great harvest. I hope you are too. Hope you can employ some of this. Any fruiting crop is going to want a lot of fertilizer. So putting that fertilizer right at the base of the plant or the seeds when you plant them, digging a deep hole, putting the fertilizer in the bottom of it, then planting on top of that. That's another method that you can use if you're not using linear kind of strips of planting. If you're kind of just taking a tomato start, for example, or an eggplant or pepper at an appropriate spacing. Just dig yourself a big hole, work the fertilizer in thoroughly into the soil so it doesn't off gas and get a little anaerobic on you. Make sure it's blended well with the soil particles. There'll be plenty of air moving around in there. And then I think this technique will reward you, and it will certainly use the minimal amount of fertilizer and water that you need to have a maximal effect. Good luck with your gardening. I'll see you next time in the garden with MBC. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ivory Organic was founded on the gardening concept of whitewashing, simply lightening your plants to better tolerate weather extremes, transplant shock, and so much more. Such a valuable gardening practice that farmers have been doing it since BC times. However, in recent years, most research has been caring for plants and trees using latex and tar-based products which are designed to last 100 years, but fall off your plants within 1 to 2 years as your plants grow, contaminating your garden soil indefinitely. Available in colors white or more natural looking colors such as brown, green, gray, and grayish. Ivory Organic has 2 general categories of whitewash products. The 3-in-1 Plant Guard, which includes 7 natural oils including castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint, which offer insect and rodent repellent protection, and the whitewash oil-free formula. Both products also have diatomaceous earth in the base ingredients, which naturally offer some insect repellent protection too. As always, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.
All right. Here we are back at it. Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark, for another great In the Garden segment. Everybody go and check out Mark's. He's got an Instagram profile. He shares a lot more insights on all sorts of stuff with the things that he's growing and all the different gardens that he has and all of that. So go check that out down there below in the description and go let him know you saw him here on the Let's Get Growing show. He loved to hear from you guys for sure. So definitely go check that out. I did want to mention something about next week, though, or at least mention next Saturday's show to you guys here right now real quick. Let you all know that we are going to be doing a community show next Saturday. Another community show's come around, and this is a time for us to get to know you, our audience. That's right. You, the audience, are the guest for our community shows. And so come join with us next Saturday, and you can come join with us live right on the show, and we'll have you on as one of our guests and have a nice conversation, talk about what you got growing on in your garden, or again, if you got a small gardening channel you would like to come and talk about, and all of that, we'll have you on here and we can chat about what you've got growing on. So come and join us this next Saturday for a great fun community show. So all right, it's time to get moving on to what we're here for today. It's the second Sunday of the month. That means we've got our good friend here joining us today to answer all of your gardening questions. So definitely get those garden questions all prepared, ready to go. Start dropping those into the chat because it's time for Ask Gardener Scott. All right. Let's welcome Mr. Scott Wilson to the show. Gardener Scott, how are you doing today? Great to have you here.
I'm doing well, Enoch. Good to see you.
It's great to have you here back again already. Right?
Yeah.
I know it was just a few weeks ago.
Short, exactly.
It was a short little break. It was like, I know I say that a lot, before. It's like, we just had you here just not too long ago, but it's really short this time because we had you on a week later last month. But again, great to have you back here. I got something I'm going to talk with you about here a little bit, but tell us a little bit what's been growing on in the last few weeks, how things going out in the garden, how things looking out there. I bet you things are starting to really start growing.
Yeah, in fact, this week, I think my garden season started. So
yeah.
I'm still about a week away from my average last frost date. And so, that's one of those things a lot of gardeners don't fully understand or appreciate, that when the seed packet says after your last frost date, what's talking about is the average last frost date. And so half the time it's before that date and half the time it's after that date. And so it was 3 days ago we had a hard freeze, but the long range forecast shows no more frost, no more freezing. And so effectively it looks like this year my average last frost date is about a week later than the actual last frost that we had. So I'm kind of rolling the dice a little bit, playing the numbers.
You're gonna jump on it.
And I've already put a lot of seeds in my garden. So I had put some plants or some seeds started, cool season crops, but when it gets down to 20 degrees, that's enough to just zap any plant that is still 2 inches high. So I've essentially had to reseed almost everything, and I did that this week. So they haven't sprouted yet, but the trees are budding out pretty well. They got a lot of damage in that severe cold I had. And flowers are starting to recover in some areas. So yeah, things are growing, and I consider my summer season started.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, me too. Kind of similar situation in a way too, though. And it's one of those things that is really kind of important in this time of the season and all of that, is that when we're looking at things and these numbers that we get attached to, last frost dates, our zones, all these sort of things, these are just kind of guidelines.
Yes.
Nature's going to do things different every single year. It's going to throw you all sorts of this, that, all this and that and whatever. And even in some cases, like for me, lots of warm, warm days, leading up to what would be my last frost date, right? So a lot of like what would, kind of be deceiving days that are kind of like, hey, look, it's really nice out now. It's spring. It's ready to go, that sort of thing. So you want to get some of those more summer type crops going. But then there's that sneaky freeze or frost or something that'll sneak in there. And that happened to me too, just a week or so ago, or the week before last.
Yeah.
And just a biting hard freeze, which, I was expecting maybe we could have a frost. And that's how tricky nature can be, right? Maybe we could have a frost still, that sort of thing. It's getting into that range of the season, but you're not thinking of freeze like what we had.
Oh yeah.
And that freeze and that's totally wiped out most of the leaf growth on all of my figs got fried. I lost. I really ultimately did. Luckily, the peaches and the apples have held on pretty good, but my pears all shriveled up. They had little baby, because it was so warm. All of these trees were out budding and producing their little, and so I was so worried. I was like, oh, I'd watch those trees. And unfortunately, the one I really, really want to produce, because I've been waiting for, the pear tree got hit the hardest and the worst out of all of it. The figs are out there growing like nothing ever happened to them. And, just a week or so later, they're sprouting new leaves and they're all just fine, and the fruits on the apples and peaches are doing good, but the pears,
Yeah, I had my pear tree loaded with blossoms for the first time. It's still a small tree. It's only about 4 or 5 years old, but I was looking forward to pears this year as well. And yeah, it'd be harder than a hard freeze. Hard freeze is about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. And so when it drops down to 22 and 20, there are a few plants that are going to be able to survive that. Garlic does okay. My garlic is still thriving, but yeah, all of the blossoms on my trees, just like you, I was hoping for the best this year, but
we see like those cool temperatures in the forecast, and we're like, oh, I hope it doesn't bring a frost, and you're kind of praying and going, I hope the weather forecast is wrong, but it's really, really bad when it's wrong in the other direction. You want it to be wrong in the warmer side and all that, but it ends up going even colder, and as the case is like, oh, okay, maybe it's gonna, but man, so I pulled in a few stuff, but there's the big trees and stuff, there wasn't much I can do with some of them, and that's where you just kind of hope everything's going to be okay. But what I wanted to ask though too, again, and we do touch on this every now and then, is talking about guidelines and all of that, right? We got zones, we got our last frost date, but something we talk about a lot, and I know I learned from you especially, that I cue in each and every year, is especially with our more warmer summer type crops that we want to grow, soil temperature is what's really important, right? And that's really kind of what we should be looking at as a real guideline for what we're doing out there, right?
Yeah, it's a combination actually. So and we've talked about this a number of times. Soil temperature to me is one of the most important numbers, because the average last frost date, and I think Jay had asked me to talk a little bit about average last frost date. So that's a 50% number that all of us in the United States and Canada have, and a lot of other countries have something similar. So 50% of the time, a frost will be the last one of the spring before that date. And 50% of the time, it'll be after that date. So for instance, I use May 18th as my average last frost date. So that means half of the time, it's going to be colder than freezing or approaching freezing after May 18th. But half of the time, it's going to be below that date. And I think this year's going to be. You can actually go online to a number of different sites, the Spruce, USDA, National Gardening Association. There are a number of places you can actually find more than just your average last frost date. So I look at the 90% date. And so you can actually get into that. And that is a number where 90% of the time, historically, using the meteorological data, that will be the last frost.
Yeah.
And so, my 90% date is closer to like May 28th, but there's still 10% historically where there's going to be a frost after that date.
Yeah.
And so for me here in Colorado, I have seen frost the first week of June. And so depending on what's happening with the days you're talking about, like the hot, warm days, that will warm up the soil. And I've been tracking my soil temperature. Well, that freeze that we had, that both of us are mentioning, that actually dropped my soil temperature 10 degrees because it was overcast, it was cold, it stayed cold, it was still overcast. And now that it's warming back up again, it's easy to think, oh, okay, I'm after my last frost, I can put things into the ground. But measuring the soil temperature, it's still too cold for most plants because the daytime warms it up, but the nighttime cools it down. And until the nighttime temperature gets regularly above 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius, you're going to have a cool soil. And so I tend to look for 60 degrees Fahrenheit as a minimum temperature, ideally 70 degrees Fahrenheit before I start putting my tomatoes and my peppers and my squash seeds and those kind of things in the ground. And so depending on the pattern of the weather, the last couple of years for me, that has been the second or third week of June before my soil temperature was good enough to actually start putting some of those plants in. And so we lost the video on you. But,
can you hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay, let's see what I can do to fix this up. What happened here?
But that's why I like to look at both factors, because the daytime temperature may seem warm enough for our summer crops, but if you put them into cold soil, it'll actually stunt the plant. And I've seen that in a number of years where the plants just don't seem to do as well. And it's because you put them in a cold soil. Eli from In the Garden with Eli and Kate and I did a series of videos a few years back, and we were growing the same tomato varieties. She's in Scotland, I'm in Colorado. And to make some of those videos, we actually kind of cheated on the calendar where we wanted the video to come out. You know how that is with YouTube. So you want a video to come out on a certain date, but you actually film it a couple weeks ahead of time. And so I was planting tomato plants about 2 weeks earlier than I had planned for, just to make that video. And those plants never really recovered. The plants that I did put in the ground 2 weeks later did much better because they weren't shocked by the cold temperature. So yeah, that really does make a big difference.
Yeah. And again, like you said, it's the combination of things. And really, when we think about, again, you're talking about doing an experiment with Eli and Kate, all the way over in Scotland over there. I think of just the difference between like where we're at. I mean, I'm not sure which zone are you there in Colorado?
So I'm in zone 5B, but remember, that's just a winter number. That's not
exactly. But that's kind of my point, is that you're 5B, I'm 8B, but we both have the same last frost date.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. You know what I mean?
And Eli has that same frost date too. And she's about, I think, a 7 equivalent.
And then also on top of that, when my soil temperature is going to reach those 60 degrees is going to be a different time period than what it's going to be for you as well, coming out of some of that cold, it's just, we can be have these similar numbers or different numbers, and none of the, it's a combination of those numbers that we're really looking at. Yeah. And,
it kind of annoys me. There's been a few companies I used to work with that I don't work with anymore because they send out guidelines that will say, like back in March, I saw information saying now's the time to plant in zone 8, and you know very well in Oregon that you might be in zone 8, but you're not going to be putting your tomatoes in the ground in March. And so there's a lot more information, and how we use the information really becomes important.
Yeah. Let's see here. Rick was asking, people may ask what the soil temperature should be. So again, it kind of varies on the types of plants that we're growing though too. And I think we're generally talking about summer type crops, things that are going to want warmer soil temperatures. But
yeah, so for the stuff that I have put in this last week, so I did beets, I did spinach and peas and lettuce and carrots, all plants that can still handle those cool nighttime temperatures, and the ones that I want to grow before the heat of summer starts growing. And so I'm looking at like 60 degrees Fahrenheit, about 15 Celsius, as being a good target number as a minimum for them to germinate. If it's colder than that, they can germinate, but it's going to take extra days. So it's better in my mind, wait 5 days for the temperature to come up, then to put the seed in the ground, and it's going to take an extra 5 or 7 days to germinate at that colder temperature. So just wait for the soil temperature to come up. But when we start talking about the tomato plants, for instance, ideally you want 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think that's closer to 25 Celsius. And so that's ideal. But if you start looking at that 70 degree range of temperature, where it's just above 20 degrees Celsius, the plants will be okay. They'll be fine. So the summer plants will do better with warmer soil, but you've got to at some point make a decision to put the plants in. And if you're only a few degrees off, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Few degrees for sure. Definitely. So right on, everybody. I already see we've got a couple of questions that are coming in already. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get your questions in. So drop in questions there, but also, and we're going to get into them. Jay's going to make sure that we get them put aside for me here. So definitely keep dropping those questions in. But I remember last time I had you on, we got so many great questions were ever coming in, and I know they're going to start coming in here as well too. But I didn't get a chance to talk with you about what I had one thing written on there, because it's been coming up a bit. And even since I last talked to you, another one of our fellow creators, one of my favorite OG creators here on YouTube, Gary Pilarchik, put out a video just recently as well too, talking about how he's not AI and
the
talking about
gardener, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Gary's great. He's been on the show a couple of times and just really, really fantastic. Had some great conversations with him, but and I want to get him back on now to talk about this too, after seeing his video as well. But it's something I'm seeing as well too. I know you've had some conversations recently as well with others about this. I know some of other creators have been talking about it too. But I thought, let's jump in here and have kind of a conversation a little bit about it as well too, because I think there's a couple of different things that are kind of going on in the sense of AI that I think maybe kind of need to be clarified a little bit, maybe in a way, but at the same time also people need to be really kind of aware of, when it comes down to it. And the thing that I haven't necessarily run into yet, but I'm sure I'm going to pretty soon, as much as I'm hearing about it and other folks and stuff. And one of the things that others have been really worried about is AI, people just creating AI gardening channels, taking your content, Scott, taking a video you've done on the 10 best ways to take care of tomato plants, right? I know you've done something similar like that, right? Yeah. And they're going to grab that video up, they're going to grab a transcript or whatever, and then they're going to go create some AI gardener, and that AI gardener is going to basically do your video now with your transcript kind of reworded or whatever, and remade and reimagined. So somebody's just working behind a computer creating something and never have stepped a foot in a garden. And then the imaging is another thing that he gets into, and I suppose we can dig into that. So, tell me a little bit of thoughts on that end of things, and then we'll kind of get into some other stuff I think is important to talk about as well.
Yeah, so this is an area I've actually been doing a lot of research in. I gave a presentation to a New Jersey Master Gardener group a month or so ago, talking 90 minutes almost about AI and how we can use it, but most importantly, how we should be careful about how others are using it when it comes to gardening, is exactly what you're talking about. Now, I'm not aware of me personally. I do know some other creators that have had a problem where videos are being made with their own words. And so, I did a video last year and kind of said it to all creators. I've had a number of different YouTube creators respond to me, and it's basically saying, I'm making a pledge that my videos are me, my face is me, all the information that I'm talking about is the information that I actively use in my garden or that I've developed because of research-based information. And I'm not going to use AI as a crutch in my garden. And so many of us are following that basic guideline. And so for the viewer, I ask that you find people like me and you and Gary and all of the others that are across YouTube. I saw Tony from Simplified Gardening check in. We're all doing the same kind of thing. We might use AI for some of our research because it is helpful, but we're not doing it as a way to make our videos. We still have our faces in front of the camera. It's still our voices. And I think it's important that the viewers, the gardeners that are looking for information, find someone, a trusted source that they can follow. And if the video just looks too perfect, if the pictures are all beautiful, if the voice is that slight English accent, but every now and then the pronunciation just isn't quite right. Those are the kind of videos that are typically AI. And if you understand AI,
inauthentic mistakes.
Exactly. And the way AI works is it's just accumulating data and putting it out onto the screen based on what the creator wants. And if the creator doesn't know the right from wrong, AI doesn't know right from wrong. AI has no judgment. It just takes a huge amount of information and then presents it in the most likely format. And often, because there's a lot of wrong information on the internet and on YouTube, and if that's what the AI is mining and then spitting back out in a pretty format, that's bad information. And gardeners are going to be doing things that will end up killing their plants because a pretty video told them that that's what they're supposed to do.
And that's the thing too. And I think there's something, there's a lot of this really kind of, we're just kind of trying to balance and weigh these positives and negatives when it comes to AI. And that's kind of what I wanted to make an address and talk about this, because you've kind of brought that up just a little bit as well too, is, we're looking at two different kind of things that are kind of going on here that we got to kind of be aware of, in a sense. One is someone, or even someone creating an AI of their own that can do this on its own and start building all this stuff itself, because it's amazing what, how little a human has to be involved in making and recreating these other gardeners' videos and stuff. And like you're saying, keeping and being aware of the things that we're seeing if things don't look. I saw one, Gardening with Des was showing one the other day that I was looking at, where it was this person and they were digging like this moat around a tree base, right? And it was deep enough to put in like little koi fish, and there were like little perfect little koi fish floating around inside. But they were, showing the whole process of how to put it together and dig it out and put the thing and lay it in there and pour the water in, and then you pour the fish in. But yeah, it was just like, for one, don't do that. You know, don't ever do something. But the craziness and
Yeah.
but that looks kind of wild and cool and neat to
Oh yeah.
somebody, and they want to
Yeah.
draw
It looks
into it and
good.
stuff.
I want to try it.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there's that range from that to actually stealing and taking transcripts and recreating videos and information, creating new AI gardeners and doing that sort of stuff. So you got that end of the spectrum, but then there's the other end. And I know we do got Tony
Yeah.
in the audience right now. And Tony is someone that, is a perfect example of, someone who I've learned a lot about this sort of stuff, is that there are great AI tools out there that we can use as authentic gardeners to help
Yeah.
get our videos and our things out there. And as far as I've ever really gotten, because I'm still learning it, to me, it's still a lot for me to process in learning about some of this stuff. So I've asked some AI, about some titles, right? Like, what's a good title for this video, right? Or we talked about like helping with like creating good thumbnails, because we know that the YouTube algorithm is it's looking at certain things and stuff, whether it's thumbnails and titles and all these sort of stuff, that we could utilize these tools to kind of help us get our authentic gardening stuff seen a little bit more when we're up against AI that's doing all this other inauthentic stuff, right? Yeah. So there's this balance that we kind of got to make with all of that sort of stuff as well, too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've played a little around a little bit with it, and I, like you, I'm sure, get emails from people saying, "Oh, I can create a thumbnail for you, and it'll drive up your traffic. And here's an example."
Even for a small channel like mine, I get several a week of those.
It's AI created, and it looks good, and it probably would get views, but I don't do that because my audience doesn't want me to look like some young guy with no wrinkles standing in front of a perfect garden. That's just not my thumbnail that I want to present. And the information, Tony is a good example on the other end of the spectrum, because he's created GrowTrack, which is an app.
I was going to get into that too. Yeah.
That is driven by AI, but he has spent years developing how the AI uses information from his videos, information from his trusted sources. And so that's the kind of thing that a gardener could use, because you trust the source that has created the AI. Eli and Kate have just done some amazing things with the AI they use in developing their gardens in Scotland, and also in figuring out how they're going to put their videos together. And Sean from Chili Chump, same thing. I've seen his setup and the way he uses AI, but it's because they take the time to train the AI so that when they're looking for information, they can trust the information, because they've put the data that they want into the AI machine, essentially. It's when gardeners just do a search and blatantly accept what ChatGPT is going to say is the right answer, or what Claude says is the right answer. That's where you have to be careful. So most gardeners should question the information they get from AI. And it's that simple. If the AI spits out an answer, if you ask a question, when should I plant my tomatoes? And it comes back and says April 15th. And I'm thinking, wow, in Colorado, April 15th just doesn't make a lot of sense. You then ask the AI, where did you get that information? And the AI will tell you, oh, I got it from the Epic Gardening channel in San Diego. And it's like, oh, okay. So you have to question, you have to ask for additional information. And if you do that, then AI can actually be a very helpful tool. It's the same thing I've been saying for years. You've heard me say it. Don't do what I say to do on my videos and use that as your only source. Go to those other channels and see what they say. And when you find out that Kevin from Epic Gardening and Tony from Simplified Gardening and Eli from In the Garden with Eli and Kate and Scott from Gardener Scott and Enoch from the Urban Gardener, when all of us are saying the same thing, then it's more likely that that's the kind of information you should probably consider in your garden.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing that, and we're so blessed, in this new modern age that like YouTube came along and that sort of thing. To me, I love it because, really what made it so popular, so why so many people wanted to watch it was because authentic, real people could get a camera and go out and do the things that they do and share that with people, and people could learn from them, and we could build communities and do all the things that we've done with this just great platform that we have with YouTube and everything. But that was the gold, was that it was real people. I've never been necessarily a fan of like reality television. I've come from the reality television generation, right? But I've just never really been a fan of it. But when I found YouTube, which was real reality television, all that stuff was scripted and made up in the long run, and you could really tell, it was, there's just something about, that television or entertainment at that type of level of production. When you break away that level of production and you just put a camera in somebody's hands and they go out in their backyard and start digging up some potatoes or planting out some carrots or whatever it is, you're getting authenticity, and that's what what we come to this platform for, right? So it's kind of tough to see this now turn, we're moving into this AI generation, to having to worry about and competing with, inauthentic computer generated people and sharing different types of information and all that sort of stuff on that level. So, to me, I just find it, again, too, it brings it back to what you were saying and the importance of us just really kind of paying attention to what we're seeing. You making sure that we're really connecting with real people and real things and real information, and not get caught up in that fancy, cool, neat looking, colorful AI generated stuff, that just kind of really is just meant to kind of like hit our senses and attract us, in a sense, and really the best stuff is like Gary was saying. I think one of the cool things about Gary's video though, that he did and he put out this last week, 'cause I don't know if you got to see it or not,
I haven't seen it.
Check it out. And most people should check it out. I think Jake, maybe you could find a link for everybody out there. It's just really great. But, he left in some, like, what I used to do is put bloopers at the end of my videos. Like, so like I didn't leave them in during the video, because I still wanted to make this guy. But at the very end, I'd take all the cuts and edits and put all the mistakes and bloopers and little things that happen and all that. Well, he put in some, he left some in there on purpose throughout the video, just kind of pointing out like, this is, real. The AI is not going to do that. You know what I mean? AI is not going to show you this. AI is not going to show you this in your garden. AI is not going to, and that sort of stuff. And that's what we got to be looking for, is really authentic, what looks like what could be your garden space, not some.
Well, and it goes beyond, I've been seeing a lot of advertising for gardening tools, gardening seeds, plants that are clearly AI, because they're showing blue flowers that are, on the same plant as pink and red flowers, and they're all perfect. And, I caution everybody to really be careful about what they're buying now, because AI just makes it look so perfect and unrealistic in most situations.
Bow ties. Question, Scott. AI makes you look like some young guy. What AI are you using? Mine always adds 20 years to anything I try to do.
Well, I remember I was referring to the solicitations that I'm getting. So some guy makes a thumbnail of me and sends it to me and says I need to hire him. I have no idea what he's using, but he's obviously making me look younger so that the thumbnail looks better. And I think, that's funny, from a creator perspective too, is the assumption that, you have to have that young, pretty face to sell your product. And if your product is a YouTube channel, then the reality of some old guy with gray hair and a gray beard is not what people are going to want to watch. So you got to change the thumbnail to attract the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah. And again, that's chasing. And again, I suppose at that point, it's just chasing an inauthentic audience at that point though, too. Right.
Yeah.
Because
Well, and
if
that's the
people are
way I've
just
always
chasing
approached it,
pretty
you know.
looking, cool looking stuff, they're not looking for real information,
Yeah.
which, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I want the viewer who wants to become a gardener
Mm-hmm.
to be the one who discovers and watches my videos. I'm not after that person who just grabs some seeds and wants to stick them in the ground and learn how to do it in 20 seconds. You know, you and everyone else that's watching now knows that gardening is hard. It takes years to figure it out. You have to have the patience of Job to get through it all. And, you know, a quick video that gives you the answer is really not what a gardener should be seeking. So
Yeah.
I'm not doing the fancy thumbnails and everything else because I want to be authentic and get an authentic gardener viewer as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. In that sense, for sure. But yeah, and really, it comes to balancing that out for individual folks out there who are doing and putting together, especially creators and all of that. What kind of AI tools and things like that you're wanting to use. Again, coming back to Tony's Grow Track, which I thought was just getting to hang out and talk with him about that and learn about that more and everything too. I believe we've got links in the chat as well as the description and everything. But one of the really awesome things I thought that was really kind of cool about that is what we mentioned with AI too, is that it'll go and search through the whole internet, and it'll and give you kind of all sorts of different types of answers based on what it finds on the internet. But when you build up something like what Tony's done, it's got its own little assistant Rowan, that they have with that. But there is a difference in type of AI, I guess, in the sense of talking about this, though, too, is that this AI is only going to search through information that Tony has I don't know what the right word is, but it's gathered for this AI to be able to do, which is mostly all of, the books he's written, just probably thousands of hours of years worth of videos that he's done on his channel and other trusted information that he's, that he's put into the pool of information that this AI Rowan on his app gets to use to bring you information. So whatever you're going to get from this specific AI is going to be a lot different than you're going to get from general AI that you would get out on the internet, right? Yeah. So there are some differences in things. There are nuances in here that can kind of catch us.
And all of us have that ability.
Because I don't want people to think that because Tony has something that's AI that it falls into the category of all this other AI we're talking about.
Right.
Because there are differences. And when people take the time to curate, I think that was the word I was looking for, to curate really great information for things like he's done with Rowan and Grow Track, then you're getting something different, right?
Well, yeah, and and all of us can define what kind of gardener we are and what kind of information we're looking for, and you can do that with ChatGPT and Claude and all the rest because of the abilities that all of this artificial intelligence, the generative AI in particular, has been developed to give us the answers we're looking for. The key is that you have to tell it what you're looking for. And that's what Tony has done with his databases, so that the information is coming from the trusted sources. You could do your ChatGPT and ask questions and say, only pull information from university extension programs. And so now it basically have a master gardener that is working with you in the garden, because that's where the information is coming from. Or if you're a grower, then you use your AI and say, only use information that comes from, and then you give a long list of rose societies or rose clubs, and that's where your information comes from. So yeah, it's crazy the information you can get from it if you clearly define it. And if just a blanket question doesn't know where to look, so it pulls from everything and it gives the most populated data response, which may be completely wrong. Or you go to something like Tony's developed over a couple years, which uses very precise data as part of his app, or you create your own question. You know, the kind of question that you ask may need to be a couple hundred words for you to get the answer. You have to say, I am gardening in Colorado and I'm looking for this thing and I'm going to be using it in this way. And I want you to get the information from these sources. And I want you to present it in such a way that it gives me a timeline. And I'm growing in this type of soil with this type of pH and this type of climate. And if you pose a question that way with AI, you can get exactly what you want. And in most cases, you can probably trust the answer that you get.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, in the long run, you know, with this new day and age and AI and all of that, it just means that we've got to be a little bit more vigilant in how and what we're getting our information from. Meaning we got to do a little bit more work nowadays. I mean, that's really kind of what, you know, what we're up against. We got to make sure that we're looking for and trusting in the sources we're getting information from. I think you made a great point, is that, you know, get to know and get out there and watch a bunch of several different channels, get to learn from different people who are out there, been doing it for years, and find those sort of things. And when they're all saying the similar things, you know, then you kind of know you're on to the right, you know, that kind of right information, that sort of thing. So it comes from finding trusted sources, so that when you're dealing with some things and videos and things out there, that you can kind of figure out, that's probably AI. That's probably not something I should be. And then again, on the other hand, too, is also, you know, there's great AI tools out there. We just, again, too, got to take the time to understand them, understand what we're hearing from, and that sort of thing as well, too. And so, you know, ultimately, what are we going to do? It's here, and it's, you know, it's going to be, you know,
learn to use it,
playing a bigger and bigger role as we keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I know we got some questions in here. Let's start digging into some garden questions now. But great conversation. I knew there was no way we were going to be able to dig into all of that sort of stuff at the end of the show last time around. So glad to be able to kind of dig into that too. So it's common. A lot of people are out there talking and thinking about this stuff right now. All right. Earlier, Big Will Dog was asking, I'm wanting to pull comfrey roots for cuttings. How is it best to package those roots for mailing? Mailing something.
Yeah, so I'm guessing Willie wants to sell or give some comfrey to some others. So like most roots, they, you know, are going to dry. They're going to desiccate in time. So you should, in most cases, put them in like a plastic bag. But the problem with putting them in a plastic bag is then they get too wet. And depending on how long it takes to get to the destination, they can start rotting. So when you buy bare root plants, or roots that are going to be used like a comfrey wood from an online nursery in particular, you'll often see that they come in those plastic bags that have holes in them. And so the plastic helps retain the moisture of the root, but the hole allows some of the air to flow through it so it doesn't start rotting. And, you know, that tends to work if it's only going to be 2 to 3 days in the mail. You can also just put it in like a paper envelope or a paper covering that achieves the same basic thing, where it allows the air to come in so it doesn't start molding or rotting, but still retains enough moisture so that the root stays alive. Now, I've never actually gotten comfrey roots. I'm not aware of anybody that's selling comfrey roots, but that is just about the best way to propagate them. So I'd say, Willie, experiment a little bit and try sending a couple things to yourself maybe and pot them up and see which one works the best. But it's that balance between retaining moisture but not having too much moisture.
Yeah. Sending things through the mail, especially plants, can be really, really tricky when it comes
Yeah.
down to it, and it's a tough thing for plant sellers and all of that. And and some have figured good ways of doing it. I ordered one year potatoes, sweet potato slips from a company. I wanted a specific variety, so I ordered these sweet potato slips, and when they showed up. And they showed up at the house, from being in the mail and everything. They just looked like I was like, I don't know if these are going to really grow. I mean, I literally called the company. I was like, I'm not sure. And they were like, well, and lo and behold, there was a warning, and it does tell you that they ship and they don't look the best and everything when they come in and all that sort of stuff. And you just got to stick them in the water or whatever and let them get growing again. And literally, I mean, they came back alive, and
Okay.
they were really just fine ultimately when it came down to it. But they showed up from being in the mail looking really, really ragged. So you never know. Some things are just going to and they just got to be revitalized or given a little time to deal with the shock or whatever, and then get back
It
to
depends on the
growing or
plant and the
something.
root.
But but it could also be just really detrimental for some things that just can't handle being mailed either. So again, like you said, it's probably good just to experiment with it. I like the idea of sending something to yourself, though. That's a good idea. Find out how it comes back to you first. Let's see here. We have a question from Michael asking, I have 2 Asian pears, one 3 years old, 8 feet tall, and the other one is 6 feet. The smaller one leafed out, no blooms. It's over 2 years old, and the big one's never bloomed, and it fruited 2 years in a row.
Yeah, so there's a few things when you start growing fruit trees. First off, depending on the tree, it can take 3 to 5 years before you get any blooms. So 3 years old and 2 years old, it's not that unusual to not get very many blossoms. Like you and I were talking about, the weather is a huge factor as well. That if you have a particularly cold night, just as those blossoms are starting to form, it could cause the blossoms to fall off before you even knew that they were forming. But if you've had a tree that has flowered and fruited like for 2 years in a row, and then it doesn't, it could be that you weren't pruning. So I would ask the question, did you prune off some of your fruit last year? Because particularly with young trees, they're going to set a lot of blossoms. And if you allow all of that fruit to develop, then what is common with many fruit trees is you create kind of an every year cycle. So the tree is strong enough to support a certain amount of fruit each year, but it's going to put out more blossoms than that level because nature just kills blossoms. And so the tree sends out more blossoms than it needs. But if you've got a good year and all of those blossoms set fruit, then the tree essentially is using all of its energy to grow that fruit and to give you a great harvest. The next year, the tree needs to recover. It actually needs to get energy back into its root system. It needs to accumulate some of the nutrients that it will need for fruit. And so it takes a year off. And so I did a video a year or two ago where I showed just how much of the fruit I was taking off of my peach tree in particular to avoid that cycle, so that instead of getting a huge harvest every other year, you get a good, even big harvest every year if you start pruning off half of the fruit or more, depending on the size of the tree.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thanks for the question, Michael. Thank you, everybody. Get your questions answered right now from Gardner Scott. Drop him into our conversation here in the chat, and we'll ask Gardner Scott here, like this question here. Any idea what kind of caterpillars are dark red, 1 inch long? I saw one on my trellis as it was transplanting tomato plants. Oh, I guess I don't know. There's so many different caterpillars. It would be so
I
hard
have
to tell
absolutely
without
no
like a
idea.
picture. Dark red clay colored.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be.
Take
I've
a
never
picture of it.
exactly.
Get down to your local extension or give them a call, maybe get an email address. You can send it to them and they can help you identify that they're going to be local.
And even just doing a simple search, you know, let Google's AI pop in. You know, all you have to do is say, I have dark red clay colored 1-inch long caterpillars on my tomato. What is it? And you're probably going to get an answer.
Yeah, some caterpillars are just kind of visiting and trying to find the plant that they really, really want. Some caterpillars will eat anything. Some are gonna, whatever, so you don't even know exactly unless you get.
And some caterpillars are moths.
Type of caterpillar.
Yeah, some caterpillars are butterflies, and all of us have different butterflies and different moths. So it's going to vary from region to region. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. Get with your local extension and they're more likely to give you a good answer.
Yeah. So let's see here. Last Sunday, Scott, we had the opportunity to be live from Mansfield, Missouri. We were live there at the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company's spring planting festival, because our good friend, both of our good friend, Mr. David from Bowtie Alive, traveled from Florida out to Missouri there, and he came and hung out with us last Sunday from the show, and
he had
some with a really great.
He had some good guests. I was following along with a lot of what he was doing. And had some really good people show up and some really good conversations.
Yeah. Hooked us up with P. Allen Smith to start out our show last week on our show. I mean, just major kudos to them for the work they did there. But Bowtie is in the chat right now, and he's asking, Scott, when you meet gardeners in person at events like Baker Creek, what conversations stay with you the longest?
So I'm actually going to be at the festival in September as a presenter at one of the programs, and so maybe I'll see you there, David, if you're going to do it.
Maybe you'll see me. I'm just teasing them. Don't know. We're working on it, but
it's possible, maybe even likely. But the thing that stays with me. So when I started my YouTube channel 15 years ago, I was a master gardener. I'd been teaching classes for the community as part of the Master Gardener program. And all of the classes that I've taught, I was most affected where at the end of the class, one person would come up and say, I was at your last class, or I was here last year and I tried that thing and it worked. And I've never had tomatoes grow so well, or I could never get a cucumber. And after I did that thing, I just have more cucumbers than I know what to do with. And so that's what stays with me. And so when I started the YouTube channel, that was my goal, was just to have one person say that on YouTube. And of course, for me, it's ended up being thousands and millions of people that have responded to the information that I presented. And so it's the gardener, the average gardener who just comes up to me and says, hey, I appreciate what you did. And I do that, every now and then on my live stream, I'll give a shout out to somebody who just stops me on the street, or we're walking through the grocery store together. That's what stays with me, is just the person. You and I are on the screen right now, and the people in the background are all invisible. We're talking to each other, but we're also talking to a lot of other people who we'll never meet. When I get the chance to meet those people, that's what I look forward to the most.
Yeah. It's even for, a small little channel like my own. It's just, I've had a few instances that were just kind of, for one, blew me away that it, even happening to me at all, but let alone, that versus, just being, like I said, a small channel. And so I'll just share a story real quick. I was at I think it was like the second or third heirloom exposition I went to, and I was hanging out with Wendy Fan from Wendyland, and we were just talking about whatever, and we had this lady walk up to us with this really sharp British accent, and she recognized Wendy first, right? And was like, "Oh, Wendy, this and that and everything," and started saying, you know, I flew all the way over from the UK, you know, and to come here and to meet you, which was great. And I was like, cool, that's cool watching her, you know, meet Wendy Fan. And I'm just sitting back like that. But she turns and looks at me and she points at me and she goes, "And you're the urban gardener."
All right.
And that was like the first time anything ever happened like that to me. I was completely like, no way. There's no way you know who I am. There's no that sort of thing. So I still got a picture with her up on my wall and everything in there to kind of remind me of like how kind of, for one, how fun and cool and interesting that is. And like you said, though, too, kind of in a way why we get into doing this stuff is to help people, to influence people and that sort of thing, but to kind of get it back from them and everything. I did have a family that wanted to take a picture with me once, which was really kind of cool, you know, but for me, though, I keep this one up here. If you can see, there's this picture right here, and this is when I first got to meet John Kohler.
Nice.
This was my first year of doing YouTube, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the Heirloom Expo. It was my first one, and all I wanted to do was go meet this guy John Kohler I've been following for years, and went and saw his talk there. And then afterwards he had a line of people doing pictures, and I was in the line and snapped that picture right there. But the cool thing is that, you know, we're all real people and real cool. It's real cool to meet people from YouTube, kind of as we were talking about before, authentic people, not AI, you know what I mean, at these events and all that sort of stuff, but real cool people, you know, that I've gotten to meet. I've gotten to know John Kohler a lot more, and he's just real authentic, great person, you know what I mean, in the long run too. So that's what's really kind of cool about all of that. But it's fun to meet people. It's fun to go to those events and do that sort of stuff, and it was really kind of cool to see David and everybody have so much fun at that event last week. Right on. Let's see here, and someday, hopefully, maybe this fall, I'll get to meet another one of my YouTube idols that I love and enjoy all the time, Mr. Gardner Scott.
You never know. Very possible.
One day we're gonna meet in person.
We'll probably see each other in Missouri before I get back out to Oregon, but
right, exactly. See, that I'm gonna have to make a special trip to Colorado for sure.
Yeah.
Serena is also asking here. She says, I transplanted 4 tomato plants, 2 bush cucumber plants, and a sweet pepper plant. One of each plant was already flowering and blooming. Should I pinch off full blooms? What do you think about that when it comes to certain plants?
Yeah, it's usually a good idea to pinch off those first blossoms. Now, it depends on how soon since you planted. So just transplanted, you know, if it's been within the last week, then I would say, yeah, pinch them off. But if it's been 2 weeks, then I'd go ahead and let them go. You know, it gets back to what we were talking about with fruit trees, where the roots have a certain amount of energy to produce fruit. And when you put a plant in the ground, when you transplant, your initial goal should be for that plant to get established, for the roots to start growing, so that the plant has enough energy underground from those roots to support whatever fruit will be the goal of your harvest. And if you allow those flowers to turn into fruit before the plant has fully established a robust enough root system, you're going to get fruit, but it's probably not going to be a lot, because the roots just can't support more than a small amount of blossoms and fruit. But if you pinch those flowers off, let that plant get established, now it's got enough energy to do more flowers and more fruit. So it's hard to pinch off those first blossoms and those first small fruits, but in the long run, you'll usually get a better harvest if you do it.
Yeah, and peppers are just famous for just wanting to flower real quick and early before you get a chance to get them out and do all of that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's tough to pinch them off, but yeah, they can be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see here again too, everybody. Thanks for all of the great questions today. If you got any more questions here real quick, drop them in here. But yeah, so let's see here. Anything you got coming up at all? Planned for gardening coming up this week?
Yeah, so this week I'm going to be doing, I'm not sure if we talked about it last time or not, but I'm bouncing between gardens right now. So
Yeah.
if you've seen some of Eli's videos in Scotland, they got a plot outside of town in a farm, and they've been creating this whole new garden in addition to the garden they have at their house. And so I kind of use that as motivation, and I'm kind of doing the same thing with
Mhm.
a new plot, so to speak, in town with a friend. And that's going to be taking a lot of my focus in these next couple of weeks because my garden beds are all ready to go. Some of them are
Yeah.
already sown.
Yeah.
Today I was pulling weeds in my garden. It's all looking great. But the new garden still doesn't
Yeah.
have the beds in place. It still doesn't have the soil
Mm,
ready to go.
yeah.
And, like we talked about at the beginning, my garden season has started. So that's going to be my focus is on this secondary garden, really getting it up to speed so that we can start growing some plants over the course of the summer and look forward to a nice crop in the fall.
Yeah. I know. I'm starting to finally get a lot of my spaces in shape around here. I still got some more to do, but I also have a secondary garden with a friend of mine who I need to go get planting out. Speaking of Mark's in the
Mhm.
garden segment, a bunch of corn. He wants to do a big, massive plot of corn this year and everything too. So I got to go help him get all that prepared and taken care of, hopefully this week myself too. So uh, yeah, lots and lots still to do, but yeah, gonna be great. Let's see here. I think Jay was dropping in one more. Let's see here. Let's get one more question in real quick here. Everybody, thanks for your questions today. For Gardener Scott, have you found any challenges in gardening as weather climate has become more variable and unpredictable?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, again, too, this is something I was saying, and this is the case every single year this time of year, is that it's just kind of an up and down, can be somewhat unpredictable, but it just seems every year it gets more and more unpredictable. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
that it's like it just seems to be the case everywhere. Like, some people are doing really well, and then just a little bit over from them, they're just dealing with all of this crazy cold and storms, and then a little bit over here and it's just so different from place to place where I don't know, it's just so unpredictable.
Yeah. I have a couple weather stations in my garden and I track
Hmm.
trends. And so, I think it's important because this is an issue. It is a challenge. The way that the weather patterns for almost all of us are affecting our garden today are different than they were 10
Hmm.
years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And so we need to approach gardening differently as well. We should try to modify how we're doing. And so, for instance, I've been reading a number of different articles this week about Mother's Day, and through
Hmm.
many areas of the United States in particular, you have a general guideline, which is wait
Yeah.
until Mother's Day to
Yep.
plant your garden. Well, that's great, but I mean, we're looking at the 10th of May, and for many of us, that doesn't work. And it may
Yeah.
work for some regions where the last
Hmm.
frost date is the beginning of May, but it's those kind of guidelines that many of us have followed and have gotten away with.
Right.
We need to question what we're doing and why we're doing it and where that information came from, and try to determine for each of us in our own garden what we're going to do on the calendar when it
Yep.
comes to our gardening activities. You can modify it, you can
Yep.
shift it, but you don't have to follow some century old guidance
Hmm.
that people around you are following. Do
Yep.
what works for you. And so use the weather data, use your own tracking. If you don't have a garden journal, you should have some type of method where you're tracking the weather, you're tracking the changes in your garden, and then figure out the plan. So, when I was talking earlier about how the second week of June is when I've been putting my garden in recent years, that's a full 3 weeks later than my average last frost date. And I used to use a 2-week buffer, where I would put my plants in 2 weeks after my average last frost date. But I found, because of the ups and downs and the roller coaster of temperatures, that even though I lose a whole week in my garden season, it gives me more stability, and it allows for my plants to go in. And it actually creates some pretty amazing benefits that I didn't intend for, but have been wonderful to discover. So these last 3 years in particular, where I'm putting my tomatoes and my peppers in the ground in the middle of June, is 2 to 3 weeks later than everybody around me. They all have grasshoppers that are killing their crops every single year, and I don't. I haven't had a grasshopper problem at all. I've had very few pest problems. And that's because I'm planting outside the normal insect gestation period. And so it doesn't mean that I can grow everything I used to grow. I have to be very selective with the varieties I'm growing. I have to make sure that they fit within my shortened season. But that's the approach I've taken, is just play it safe for the most part. And just accept that the craziness of the weather is something I can't forecast. So when we were talking about the average last frost date and the 90% frost date, I'm now not planting until after the 100% frost date. I'm not putting those plants in the ground until I am sure that we're not going to get some weird snow system that sets up in the beginning of June here in Colorado.
Yeah, and your plants are going to grow, and you're going to get fruit and all of that sort of stuff. So having gotten in, a week or two before, or all of that, wasn't, necessarily going to completely be a bigger or better benefit, right?
Yeah.
It could have been actually detrimental in the long run, because something could have happened. It could have been freeze, frost, all that sort of stuff that could have caused some things, which then would stunt the plant and set it back, versus something that is started at that just right opportune time for it, that'll grow just fine without all those deficiencies, and outpace whatever plant you might have started. Maybe a fun experiment for some people to play around with, is
and the
to
opposite
figure
holds
out some
true
stuff too as well.
I'm planting later just because my springs have been so crazy. But if you've been tracking your weather patterns, and particularly if in the last USDA hardiness zone map that came out, you're in a new zone, that should get you thinking about tracking the weather, tracking the cold temperatures of winter, tracking your last frost date, and maybe you can actually start gardening a week or two earlier than you have. And so it affects each of us differently, and so each of us need to figure out just exactly which the best approach is going to be.
Yeah, right on, excellent. And as I like to remind everybody whenever we got Gardener Scott around too here, is that he's also an author now, and has a great book, The Guide to Raised Bed Gardening, which I think we'll put in our last question for the day. From our good friend, the J-Bot, asking, now that some time has passed, how do you feel about the experience of having written your own book? I imagine your opinions, emotions about that labor of love have changed over time. I mean, especially, right after the book, the relief of finally finishing, all the work you put into it, all that sort of stuff. And now it's all this time later and stuff, how have things kind of changed, and how do you still feel about this really awesome book? Like I said, everybody, link down below too. Get yourself a copy if you haven't yet.
So I still feel great. I've got a copy of it sitting right next to me in case I ever need to refer to it. But yeah, it's just one of those accomplishments that is very high on my list of accomplishments in my life, because it was 2 years actually of effort, an effort of love, I am extremely pleased with how it turned out. And so it still warms my heart to think about it. But
Hmm.
it's one of those things that, I kind of sort of started writing a second book, but I'm not sure if I want to. Tony's written 3 books, and just that's crazy to me because I'm figuring out if I want to do a second book because it's just so hard, and
Hmm.
it is such a challenge. But it's also very rewarding. I'm actually going to be on a show in a couple of weeks for Wisconsin Public Radio, and
Oh,
they
oh, excellent.
found my book, they liked the book, they want me to come on a year after it was published and
Yep.
and talk to the gardeners in Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
that part of it is really cool, and that's one of those things that that continues to elicit warm emotions when I see that it's having an effect on so many people in so many areas. And so um, I've had that from the beginning, so I don't know if that necessarily is a change, except that I didn't necessarily expect that it would continue for as long as it has.
Yeah, yeah, you never know. I mean, we got you right off the bat, of course, because of our connection with each other and everything, right in our book club. But there's some authors, we're calling and knocking on their door several years after they've written their book to talk about them and everything as well too. So that's the kind of thing about writing a book, right? It gets
Yeah.
it's on a shelf. It's in the Library of Congress. It's it's there. It's a documentation,
Yep.
historical documentation that's there now, and people will be reading this for years. So it's really, I
Yeah.
think that's
Hope
kind of a
so.
cool thing to think about, right?
Yeah. And it really is. I think legacy is important.
Yeah,
I think that it's difficult to create your legacy and to try to figure out what your legacy is going to be. That's what other people do. Other people determine what your legacy is. And
yeah,
so, exactly to your point, having written a book with very helpful information, I hope 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, people are still using that information. Um,
hmm,
and I'll have been long gone, but that's one of those pieces of legacy that I think is important for my grandkids and their grandkids to
exactly.
realize that they were a part of it all.
Yeah, yeah. I'll share this little story though too. It's not gardening, but my daughter decided, she wanted to follow in the family tradition of being a hairstylist, doing hair and all of that. And the cool thing was is that she's following the family tradition because her grandfather was actually a very popular hairstylist back in like the late 70s and the 80s, had
Cool.
his own line of hair stuff and everything. But he wrote a book on that like hairstyling schools and all that sort of stuff used for many years and everything. And it was something that was kind of cool for her to kind of share that book that he wrote when she was going to school all those years later and everything too. I told her, I said, what would be really cool though is if you could do the new updated revision of the book. Would be really kind of cool, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
But yeah, I talk about legacy and how cool that is. One of your grandkids will be, yeah, out in their garden learning and
Yeah,
building their raised beds with your raised bed gardening book.
there you go.
Yeah, yeah. And so could you too, everybody out there. Like I said, link down below in the description. Get the copy if you haven't gotten a copy yet. It's definitely a great book. Real quick here, though, too, let's talk a little bit about what you got coming up over at the Gardener Scott channel. You got any videos coming up? I know that what was it? Your last video, you did a garden tour, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so on that video, I did the tour of my garden. Then I also introduced the other garden that I'm starting to work at. And so probably the next video I've got coming up is
Hmm.
going to be uh, how to garden on a slope, because that's a
Oh,
big
okay.
issue at that new garden is how to
Yeah.
actually plan when you have a substantial slope and how you're going to lay out your bed. So I'll be showing some of those considerations, how you can actually plan terraces and pathways when you've got a slope on the garden. So that one will be coming soon.
Excellent. Excellent. That sounds really great. And of course, if you didn't get your questions, you're coming in late or whatever, and you didn't get a question answered here today for our Ask Gardener Scott here on the Let's Get Growing show. You can go and join with him tomorrow morning. He'll be back at it live again tomorrow at, I think it'll be 8 a.m. Pacific time, right?
Yep.
And that makes that 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
Right. I think I got that right this time.
Well, I think you've gotten it right all the time. You're questioning yourself unnecessarily.
Right. Yeah, I must be for sure. I think so. But yeah, definitely great live stream. What do you got? Or real quick here, let's talk about what you've actually done since last time, though, too. You because I thought a couple of these topics were just really kind of great topics too, if you want folks to go back and check out some of the previous live streams. But what you did one called How to Enjoy Gardening. What were you talking about there?
Yeah, so the whole idea of the reasons why we garden, and just basically literally stopping and smell the roses.
Yeah.
That, when you start approaching gardening, it's just, oh, I got to get out and water. Oh, I got to get out and weed. Oh, the pests are eating everything, and everything is a chore. Everything is stressful. Then
there is that point of the season, isn't it?
Exactly. And it becomes very easy to walk away when you recognize that it's a waste of time, or you think you recognize that it's a waste of time. But instead, turn it around and look at the little things that are happening in your garden. I saw a bumblebee just land on the surface of a bed that I was working in a couple days ago. And that moment was that made the whole day worthwhile, was just watching a bumblebee walk across the surface of the soil. And when you take that approach to gardening, you recognize that for many of us, a big reason why we garden is because it relieves our stress, that we can get out in the garden and enjoy it and look at the butterflies and listen to the birds and eat the raspberry fresh off of the cane. And so that's the basic discussion of that live stream. Was
that's great.
Get back to why you like gardening in the beginning. And if you start feeling that stress or that worry or that concern, just slow down and recognize that you are in the perfect location to relieve stress and to actually promote mental well-being because you're a gardener.
Yeah. And you did a couple of other great ones. Definitely you want to check out. What does gardening cost? I mean, that's a big one. We all think about, the cost of gardening and all of that. That can be something big that we think about. But gardening, I'd imagine you're talking a lot in that live stream about, how gardening doesn't have to cost a lot either, too, right?
Yeah. So I covered a spectrum basically of what you could do to garden for free, all the way up to, the bank gives you all the money you need to build the garden. Exactly. And so, I talked a lot about the spectrum from a cost perspective, but also talked about the time involved and how you can garden and how much time it takes, from the same idea of a spectrum, little time to a lot of time. And so there are a lot of costs that are associated with gardening that aren't necessarily financial.
Yeah.
And so we all need to be aware of some of those concerns when we start gardening or when we choose to continue gardening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so definitely go and check out those live streams. I think the last one was watering the garden, and from what I noticed there, Gardener Scott, is that tomorrow's live stream will be number 298, which means that by the time we see you here next time here on the show, you will have done 300. Number 300. How about that?
That's kind of crazy to think about, because that's on average, I've done about 50 per year. So I've been doing a live stream for 6 years now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And just literally just so much you can learn from all of those live streams. As we mentioned, there's just such great topics. You cover so much and do so much when it comes to those topics and everything like that. You come here to the Let's Get Growing show to hear about and learn about all of our stories and all that sort of stuff and have some great fun conversations. You go to the Gardener Scott channel and watch his live so that you can really learn some things about what's growing on in your garden. So definitely go and do that. We've got links all down below. Jay's been sharing them in the chat. So make sure that you go and check out Gardener Scott's channel and live streams. Thanks again, Scott. Again, it's always wonderful to have you here, and I'm so glad that we got to dig into that big AI question today too.
Well, so think about some more of those deep dive things that you want to do, and I'll be back next month.
That's right. That's right. That's what we'll do. Well, again, thank you so much for being here with us this month, and we'll definitely look forward to seeing you again this next month for sure. This time on, well, I guess we are on the regular time now, so we're back on regular time. But we'll see you next month.
Sounds good. So thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much, Scott. You bet.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
All right. Here we go. Let's wrap this up today. Let's wrap this weekend up. Thank you again so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Gardener Scott, for coming and hanging out with us again here, second Sunday of the month, answering all of your gardening questions, a really deep dive into some AI and gardening today. I hope you all really, really enjoyed the conversation. Also, another big, huge shout out to all the moms in the audience today who are watching with us. Happy Mother's Day to all of you again. I really hope you've been enjoying your Mother's Day. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate that. And again, we got some things coming up here on the Let's Get Growing show. Like I mentioned just a little bit earlier, next Saturday, we're going to do a community show. That's right. It's one of our really fun community shows. This is where you, the audience, are the guest. That's right. You get to come and join with us on the show next Saturday. Let's also, as I was mentioning to everybody yesterday, let's bring a friend. All of you folks who are joining with us, bring a friend next Saturday. Go and get a garden friend of yours or another channel, small channels, especially. Like I said, it's one of the things we love doing is sharing the community around for everybody. And this is with this show, and it's a great opportunity for us to meet each other, get to learn about new channels and all of that. So if you have a friend who's got a channel who might like to come and get a shout out or talk about what they've got growing on, let them know about what we have going on next Saturday for our community show. We'd love to see some really lots of new faces and have some really new great conversations. So definitely come and join with us for next Saturday's community show. And then next week on the Sunday edition, back at it on the Sunday edition next week, is our monthly gardening book club. That's right. It's the third Sunday of the month next Sunday. So that means it's time for our monthly gardening book club. And that means our good friend, Mr. Mark Boucher Colbert, Mr. MBC, who we saw earlier in the garden segment, will be here with us live on the show for In the Garden. And what we're going to do is we don't have a featured book this month. So what we're going to do is Mark and I are going to talk books still. It's a book club. So we're going to hang out and talk books. But what we're going to do is we're going to bring, Mark and I'm going to bring mine and he's going to bring his. We're going to bring our most used gardening books off of our garden bookshelf. And we're going to talk about those books that we use the most in our garden. So that's what we're going to do this next Sunday. So we'll have another really fun conversation talking all about gardening books and everything for our book club next Sunday. So definitely come and join with us for that conversation. So, all right, everybody, we'll have really great shows coming up for you. And I'll see all of you around next week. We'll see you then.
back of the run. See you on the flippy flops.